Okay, so here is the whole computer. We've got the keyboard, the tablet, and the speaker, and this beautiful mount here. So I'm going to give you a tour of how to adjust the mount. It's going to be in position here for seated, and then when he goes to bed, it's going to swing all the way out and around. So it's over here. And this can be positioned so he can watch it and use it in bed. Okay, so come back to the base of the mount and I'll show you how it bends and turns. This is the part in the first video where we showed you how to bolt it on. This just stays fixed. Back up to the top here, we have the main mount with the rubber on it. This one is going to adjust the tightness of how it swings radially. This is the main positioning from wheelchair mode to bed mode. It can also be changed, it can change the height too. So you loosen it a bit until you can pull it up, and then when you tighten it, it'll lock in the height that you set it at. So it locks in both the height of this round rod, as well as locks in how stiff it is for rotating around that radial axis for the round rod. Okay, now we come up to here. This mount is fixed. You don't have to worry about that, but on the other side of it, this rod, you can see, this is where we get to the section. This is actually a standard TV mount. So we've got this left and right action. So you can see that's going to change when you want to pull it away from him a bit in the wheelchair, further from his face. Then you can rotate the round rod away from him and rotate the square rod towards him. And then we get to the next mount, which is this one. This is the inner side of the square mount. This one lets it go left and right like this. So this is a way to get it further from his face by having it at a right angle here and turning it to the left. This will also be useful for when we go to bed mode. We rotate it around like this, and then you can see rotating on this third mount here. Now there's also, come around to this side, you can see that the whole thing will tilt on this axis. And you can see on the back here, come back around to the back. You can see it tilting this plate here against this plate here on this axis as well. So all of this can be tightened if it's getting loose at any point. So to change this axis right here and like that, it's these two nylock nuts on the side. To tighten up this position, left and right like that, it's a nylock nut on the bottom here. To tighten up this position, which is this one, like that and that, it's a nylock nut on the bottom right here. We also have additional nylock nuts that can replace them in case they get too stripped. And then back to the original, it's just a hand crank with a rubber band here. Don't over tighten this one. It's plastic underneath the metal, so just want to do it tight enough to stick, but not over tight. Okay, that's the mount. Cool. Hi, this is the video about how to attach the base of the mount to the wheelchair using this metric hex bolt here and a socket wrench. So our assistant here, the assistant will have their right hand on the round bar and the left hand on the flat bar to keep it nice and balanced. And then the assistant will lift up the whole arm so that the side with the round indents, it's a ring of bumps, will be facing the ring of bumps on the wheelchair side. be sure you lock the wheelchair before you begin this on both sides. And what you're going to do is use a 13mm socket hex head for the bolts. Now, the assistant will help position the bumps so that they line up, and the convex bumps on the wheelchair side are going to line up with the concave bumps on the vertical mount side. Now, you'll want to get it pretty perpendicular so the rod is pointing straight up, but you can't get it perfectly perpendicular, so bias it so that the top leans a little bit away from the wheelchair. So the assistant will generally just hold the weight there, and the person who's going to ratchet it in is going to help perfect the position, get it lined up properly while the other person relieves the weight. So here's the hex head in the socket wrench. I'm going to put it inside. Always start it by hand threading. And hand thread it until you get a bit of a bite. And now it's turning. You want it to turn relatively loosely with hand threading. And then you start ratcheting it down using a socket wrench. The whole time you want to be mindful of the position to get it as close inward to the wheelchair as possible until it catches all the way and starts pulling the tension inward. Okay, it can still go a little bit more in. I'm repositioning to get the bumps to fall into the bumps. You'll see a nice flush alignment once the bumps are inside of each other. Then you'll get to a point where, okay, it gets tight, and you don't want to over tighten it. Just get it pretty snug, hand tight with a socket wrench like that. Okay, now you can let go, and just make sure that it's nice and tight, that you don't have any play between the vertical rod and the mounting plate on the wheelchair itself. Just double checking the tightness after I play with it. It feels good. All right, okay, so in the last video, listen to what I said, but now you can actually see what's happening. This is the hex head, and this is the base of the vertical mount here. And this is the part that is bolted onto the wheelchair, the receiving joint for the vertical round bar. And so when you're using this 13mm socket, you're tightening up this bolt to join these two, and come in close here. You want these two to be flush, because this part here is going to separate from this part here. And you want the bumps, which are going to be convex on this side, to line up with the bumps that are concave on this side. And take a look at the angle. You can see it's slightly forward of perfectly perpendicular. All right, that's it.